You can pinpoint the exact second the lie died. It wasn't during a screaming match or a dramatic walk-off. It was a quiet, almost bored confession that unraveled 15 years of television history. Kody Brown, the man who spent over a decade trying to convince the world that he had cracked the code to divine love and family structure, looked directly into the lens and admitted the one thing we all suspected, but he never dared to say. He admitted that the calling was a sham. He admitted that the principle he forced these women to suffer for wasn't a pathway to heaven. It was just an excuse to feed his own ego. After years of selling us the image of a benevolent patriarch managing a kingdom of love, the mask didn't just slip. He tore it off and stomped on it. He essentially looked at the audience and said, "I made it all up." And the terrifying part? He doesn't even look sorry. He looks relieved that he finally stopped pretending to care. If you've been waiting for the moment the truth finally came out, or if you just want to see a narcissist's house of cards come crashing down in real time, you need to hit that like button right now. We are digging deep into the dark reality of what's happening behind the scenes of Sister Wives, and we're exposing the secrets the network is trying to bury. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the rumors coming out of Flagstaff are getting darker by the day, and you won't want to miss what we've uncovered. Let's go back to the beginning just for a second to understand the magnitude of this fraud. When we first met Kody Brown, he was bouncing around in a convertible, smiling like a used car salesman, pitching us on the idea that love should be multiplied, not divided. He sold a brand. It was a specific brand of religious superiority that claimed he was evolved enough to love 4 women equally. But looking back at the footage now, with the clarity of hindsight, it's obvious that he wasn't a husband to these women. He was a casting director. He needed 3 supporting actresses to fill the roles that would get him a television deal. And once the cameras were rolling, he checked out. The recent admissions from Kody aren't just him being honest. They are a confession of emotional fraud. He has openly stated now that he never felt a romantic connection with some of his wives, specifically Christine and Meri, for years. Yet he kept them on the hook. Why? Because Divine Calling was actually a business model. You don't get 18 seasons of a reality show if you're just a guy who wants to divorce his wife and marry his mistress. You only get the paycheck if you keep the circus running. But here is where things get murky, and we have to talk about some of the whispers that are starting to circulate in the private production forums and insider threads. There is a growing theory, one that hasn't been confirmed by the network yet, but makes too much sense to ignore, that Kody's admission of failure wasn't an accident. Some insiders are suggesting that this was a calculated move to pivot the show's narrative because the polygamy angle is dead. The rumor is that Kody and Robyn are terrified of the show being canceled now that the other wives are gone. Without the conflict of the other women, they are just a boring, unhappy, monogamous couple in a cluttered house. The word on the street is that Kody is trying to rebrand himself as the, quote, victim of toxic women to secure a spinoff or a contract renewal. He's scorching the earth, admitting the old way was a scam so he can try to sell us a new storyline, the misunderstood man who survived 3 terrible marriages. It's a manipulation tactic called DARVO, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. He's denying he ever loved them, attacking their character by saying they couldn't hack it, and reversing the roles so that he, the man who held all the power, is somehow the victim of the women he controlled. It's chilling when you realize that his religious calling had an expiration date that coincided perfectly with his bank account draining. And speaking of finances, this is the other side of the scam that isn't getting enough airtime. For years, Kody demanded that his wives submit to the patriarchy. He wanted to be the king. But the traditional deal of patriarchy is supposed to be a trade-off. The man gets the authority, but he carries the burden of provision and protection. Kody demanded the authority of a king while acting with the financial irresponsibility of a teenager with a stolen credit card. We're seeing reports surfacing that suggest the financial entanglement of the family pot was much darker than we saw on TV. While Janelle was living in a chaotic rental and worrying about her retirement, and Christine was scraping together cash for her daughter's surgery, money was allegedly flowing toward assets that primarily benefited Kody and Robyn. The scam wasn't just emotional, it was literal. He sold them a dream of building a legacy on Coyote Pass, but reports suggest that the property was never truly intended to be built upon in the way they discussed. Some speculate that the land was merely a place to park money, a tangible asset that Kody could control, while the wives were kept in a state of financial dependency, forced to ask him for permission to access their own earnings. When Kody screams at the cameras about loyalty, translate that word in your head. He doesn't mean loyalty. He means complicity. He means, why did you stop letting me lie to you? When Christine packed her boxes, she didn't just leave a marriage, she broke the silence pact. She exposed the fact that the emperor had no clothes, and even worse, that the emperor was broke and angry. This brings us to the trap moment, the ultimate contradiction that Kody can't talk his way out of. He spent years telling these women that they needed to be sweet and keep sweet to earn his favor. He preached that a wife's duty was to bring peace to the husband. But look at him now. Look at the man who claimed to be the expert on family dynamics. He is arguably the most bitter, unregulated, and hostile person on the entire cast. He demanded emotional maturity from his wives while he threw tantrums that would embarrass a toddler. The irony is suffocating. He wanted to be respected as a leader, but a leader's job is to manage morale and navigate crises. Kody's method of management was to abandon anyone who had a problem. There is a fascinating theory floating around the fan community that Kody actually resents Robyn now too. Not because she did anything wrong by his standards, she followed every rule he made, but because she is the living reminder of his hypocrisy. She is the prize he burned everything down to get, and now that he has her, he realizes that the chase was the only thing holding his ego together. Without the other wives to triangulate against, without an enemy to fight, Kody is forced to sit in the quiet of his own home and face the reality of who he is. And from what we see on screen, he hates that reflection. Let's dig a little deeper into the divine calling narrative. Kody used religion as a shield. Whenever he was questioned about his erratic behavior or his blatant favoritism, he would pivot to the principle. It was God's will. It was a spiritual testing ground. This was the ultimate gaslight. By attaching God to his bad behavior, he made it a sin for his wives to complain. If you were unhappy with Kody, you weren't just a bad wife, you were a bad believer. You were failing a spiritual test. This is why the recent admission is so devastatingly cruel. He used their faith, their genuine belief in an afterlife and a higher purpose, as a leash to keep them obedient while he did whatever he wanted. And now the insider buzz suggests that the fallout from this scam is about to get legal. While nothing has been filed publicly yet, there is intense speculation that the separation of assets isn't going to be the quiet handshake deal Kody is hoping for. Sources close to the situation have hinted that the ex-wives are waking up to the financial reality of the last decade. If the family pot was managed under the guise of a partnership that Kody admits he never took seriously, that opens the door for a massive reckoning. Imagine the panic in the McMansion right now if forensic accountants started looking at where the show money actually went versus where Kody claimed it was going. But that wasn't the whole story. If you think the financial betrayal is bad, wait until you hear about the replacement theory that's starting to gain traction. There are whispers that Kody isn't done with polygamy, despite his claims, but his motivation has shifted from religious calling to something far more desperate. And what happened next would shock everyone. Because if you think Kody Brown is ready to settle down into a quiet life of monogamy, you aren't paying attention to the money. There is a persistent underground rumor gaining traction on social media and private fan groups that suggests the Brown family isn't done expanding, but not for the reasons you think. The replacement theory alleges that Kody and Robyn are acutely aware that their relevance and their paycheck is tied entirely to the chaos of plural marriage. Without the other three wives to serve as antagonists or plot points, Kody and Robyn are just a regular, somewhat dysfunctional couple living in Arizona. That doesn't sell ad space. So the speculation is that there may be a quiet, desperate hunt happening behind the scenes, not for a, quote, soulmate, and certainly not because Kody has a genuine spiritual conviction left in his body, but for a co-star. The buzz is that they need someone to reboot the dynamic, someone to bring the plural back into the picture so they can secure another 5 seasons. But here is the catch, and it is humiliating for him. The word is that nobody wants the job. Insider reports hint that Kody's reputation is so radioactive that even women who are interested in the lifestyle are steering clear of him. He has become the ultimate don't date him warning poster for the entire polygamous community. He bankrupted his social capital. This leads us directly into the trap moment for Robyn. This is the ironic twist that feels like a script from a dark comedy. For years, the audience theorized that Robyn wanted Kody all to herself. We thought she was playing the long game to oust the other wives and become the queen bee. Well, be careful what you wish for. She won. She got the prize. And now she looks absolutely miserable. There are sources close to the situation claiming that the tension inside that house is thick enough to cut with a knife. Robyn claimed she wanted the big picture sisterhood. She wanted the porch scene with grandbabies. Instead, she is now trapped in a monogamous nightmare with an angry, bitter man who has no one else to blame for his problems but her. She has become the sole emotional dumping ground for Kody's rage. When Meri, Janelle, and Christine were around, Kody could deflect. He could blame Christine for his bad mood or ignore Meri to feel superior. Now, it's just him and Robyn. Every frustration, every financial worry, every bruised ego moment lands squarely on her shoulders. The favorite wife status was a luxury when there were scapegoats to take the heat. Now that the scapegoats are gone, the favorite wife is just the only wife, and that comes with a heavy price tag. Let's look at the credibility dilemma that Kody is facing, because this is where his entire worldview collapses under scrutiny. Kody is trying to spin a narrative that the wives couldn't hack it. He tells the cameras that they weren't loyal enough, they weren't obedient enough, they didn't respect the family. But by the very standards he set for polygamous men, Kody is the one who couldn't hack it. In his culture, the man is supposed to be the shepherd. He is supposed to be the spiritual leader who keeps the peace and ensures equity. If a CEO runs 3 out of 4 branches of his company into the ground, we don't blame the employees. We fire the CEO. Kody wants to be judged as a victim of, quote, disobedient wives. But the reality is that he failed the basic test of leadership. He didn't lead, he ruled. And there is a massive difference. He ruled through fear, withholding affection, and playing favorites. That isn't a, quote, divine calling. That is high school bullying with a religious cover story. His failure is absolute. He didn't just lose his wives, he lost the respect of his children. And for a man who prides himself on being a patriarch, having your adult sons openly criticize your behavior on the internet is the ultimate badge of shame. This brings us to the concrete example of his hypocrisy, the financial disparity that is starting to look less like bad management and more like calculated theft. We need to talk about the nanny situation again, but with a fresh perspective based on new information. For years, Christine was raising a battalion of children, working nights and scraping by. Janelle was the primary breadwinner for a long time, pouring her 401k and inheritance into the family pot. And yet, when the money was tight, Kody suddenly found the funds to hire a nanny for Robyn, a woman who didn't work outside the home and had 2 grown children in the house who could help. The insider chatter suggests that this wasn't just about childcare. It was about status. Kody was funneling family resources, money that should have gone to Isabel's surgery or paying off the land, to ensure Robyn lived like royalty while the other wives lived like peasants. It was a financial caste system. Kody was driving a sports car while his daughter was in pain. That isn't just a failure of a husband, that is a failure of a human being, and the audience saw it. The reason the backlash against him is so severe isn't just because he's annoying, it's because he violated the core social contract of parenting. You feed the kids before you feed yourself. Kody fed his ego first, Robyn second, and the rest of the family got the scraps. There is a psychological element here that we need to unpack, the behavioral flaw that makes Kody so fascinating to watch and yet so repulsive. It's his complete inability to accept accountability. It's what psychologists might call a narcissistic collapse. When Kody is confronted with a fact he doesn't like, he doesn't argue the fact, he attacks the reality. Remember the knife in the kidneys speech? That wasn't the speech of a heartbroken man. That was the tantrum of a man who realized he was losing control. He wasn't screaming because he would miss Christine's love. He has admitted he didn't even want to be intimate with her. He was screaming because she dared to walk away without his permission. He was screaming because his property was repossessing itself. It was the rage of an owner losing an asset, not a husband losing a partner. And in that moment, the nice guy mask completely dissolved. We saw the real Kody Brown, the one who stomps around, eyes black with rage, demanding respect while offering absolutely nothing in return. But the story gets even darker when you look at the escalating stakes regarding their future. Kody banked his entire identity on this show. He hasn't had a real job in over a decade. He sells gun accessories at trade shows occasionally, but his primary income is being Kody Brown, the TV star. By admitting the marriage was a sham, he effectively told the network that the premise of the show is a lie. This puts him in a precarious double bind. He needs the show to pay for the mansion, the land, and the lifestyle, but he has destroyed the very thing the show is about. This is why we are seeing such erratic behavior lately. He is panic spiraling. Reports suggest that Kody is looking for ways to liquidate assets quickly without alerting the public. We've seen listings for land, rumors of selling off collectibles, and a general tightening of the belt. Why? Because the family pot is gone. Christine took her share of the show money with her when she left. Janelle has separated her finances. Meri is finally independent. Kody is realizing that 20% of a paycheck is a lot less than 100% of the family's total income. He didn't just lose wives, he lost 3 income streams that he had felt entitled to for decades. And let's touch on the thematic hypocrisy of the COVID rules. This was the turning point for many viewers. Kody used the pandemic not as a health crisis to navigate, but as a tool for division. He created a set of impossible standards that he knew the other wives couldn't meet, specifically so he could justify staying at Robyn's house full-time. It was the perfect excuse. He could look like he was being responsible while actually just abandoning his other families. But the lie fell apart when he was caught breaking his own rules. He was spotted out and about, maskless, while screaming at his sons for wanting to see their girlfriends. It wasn't about safety, it was about compliance. It was a loyalty test that he rigged so everyone would fail except Robyn. The insider theories surrounding the children are perhaps the most heartbreaking part of this entire saga. There are murmurs that some of the adult children have completely cut off contact, not just because of the divorce, but because of what Kody said about their mothers on national television. Imagine being Pardon or Garrison or Gwendolyn and watching your father tell the world that he never loved your mother, that he felt pressured into marrying her, that she was disgusting to him. You can't walk that back. That is permanent damage. Kody sacrificed his relationship with 18 children just to prove a point to the audience. He chose being right over being a dad. And this leads us to a disturbing realization about the quote, divine calling. If Kody admits now that he didn't love them, then every child born from those unions was, in his mind, a product of obligation, not love. That is a devastating thing for a child to internalize. He has essentially delegitimized his own family tree. He treated his children like collectibles. He wanted the high number to show off to his religious friends, look at me, I have 18 kids, I'm a high status male. But once they developed opinions and needed actual parenting, he checked out. He likes babies because they don't talk back. He hates adults because they see through him. Now, let's pivot to what the rumor mill is saying about the upcoming season. There is talk that the producers are fed up with Kody's narrative control. For years, Kody allegedly tried to dictate what could and couldn't be filmed. He didn't want the cameras inside Robyn's house. He didn't want them filming certain fights. But now that the power dynamic has shifted, the network holds all the cards. The rumor is that the editors are going rogue. They are no longer protecting Kody. They are actively highlighting his contradictions. They are pulling up flashback clips to prove him wrong in real time. The villain edit isn't an edit anymore. It's a documentary. They are simply letting the camera roll and letting Kody destroy himself. There is also a fascinating theory about the exit strategy. Some observers believe Kody is trying to get the show canceled on purpose now. The theory goes that his ego can't handle the hate anymore. He reads the comments. He sees the internet mocking his hair, his dancing, his logic. It's eating him alive. So he might be sabotaging the production by being impossible to work with, hoping the network pulls the plug so he can retreat into victimhood, claiming, the world just wasn't ready for my truth. It's a classic quitter's move. Flip the board game over when you realize you're losing. But the financial reality won't let him quit. He is trapped in the prison he built. He needs the camera crew in his face because he has no other way to pay for the Coyote Pass dream that has turned into a dust bowl. And speaking of Coyote Pass, that land is the perfect metaphor for Kody Brown. It's big, it's expensive, it was promised to be a paradise, and after 5 years, it is nothing but dirt and empty promises. There is no infrastructure. There are no houses. There is just a man standing on a pile of dirt, looking at a mountain, wondering where everyone went. The betrayal goes deeper than just love and money. It's about time. These women gave him their youth. They gave him their best years. And he took that time and used it to build a platform for himself, only to discard them when they started to age or have needs. It is the ultimate usage of human beings as resources. And the fact that he calls himself a man of God while doing it is the cherry on top of the fraudulent sundae. We are watching a man who is legally and spiritually bankrupt. But what makes this ultimate fraud so compelling is that he still thinks he's the hero. In his mind, he is the protagonist of a Greek tragedy, beset by harpies. He doesn't see that he is the villain, and that lack of self-awareness is dangerous. It means there is no bottom. There is no point where he will wake up and say, I messed up. He will only double down. He will only get louder, angrier, and more desperate. And that desperation is leading to some very strange behavior regarding the loyalty of the few people he has left. We are hearing whispers that the circle around Kody and Robyn is shrinking rapidly. Friends are backing away. Business associates are distancing themselves. The brand of Kody Brown is toxic. And this isolation is creating a pressure cooker inside that house. If you think the fighting was bad when Christine was there, imagine the fighting now when there is no buffer. But hold on, because the story takes another twist when we look at the legal implications of his fraud admission. If Kody admits on camera that he married these women under false pretenses, that he never intended to be a true husband, does that open him up to civil lawsuits? It's a stretch, but legal experts in the fan community are debating whether the wives could sue for emotional distress or fraud. He defrauded them of their lives. He sold them a bill of goods that didn't exist. While a lawsuit might be unlikely, the public court of opinion has already reached a verdict: guilty on all counts. We are about to enter the final chapter of this saga, and the predictions for how it ends are grim. There is no redemption arc coming for Kody Brown. The writers, meaning reality itself, have painted him into a corner, and the only way out is through total collapse. But there is one final piece of the puzzle, a lingering question that keeps coming up in the forums. What does Robyn really know? Is she a victim of his manipulation too, or is she the architect of this entire downfall? The answer might be more complex than villain or victim. She might be the one person who knows exactly how deep the fraud goes because she helped him write the script. And that brings us to the edge of the cliff. We've looked at money, religion, and broken relationships. But the final blow, the one that truly cements this as the ultimate scam, is what Kody is planning to do next. You won't believe the lengths he is willing to go to in order to keep the spotlight on himself, even if it means burning down the last shred of dignity he has left. But that wasn't the whole story regarding Kody's future plans, because the most shocking twist isn't about what he's doing, but about who he has become. We are witnessing the total disintegration of a man who believed he was a god in his own universe. The ultimate fraud isn't just that he lied to his wives, it's that he lied to himself, and now reality is coming to collect the debt. Let's talk about the isolation factor, specifically regarding Robyn, because this is the part of the story that feels like a psychological thriller. There is a prevailing theory among longtime viewers and body language experts that Robyn is currently living in a hell of her own making. She spent years crying on camera about how she wanted the big picture, how she wanted to sit on a porch with her sister wives and watch their grandchildren play. Well, the porch is empty, the sister wives are gone, and the only person sitting next to her is a man who is fuming with resentment. Insider reports suggest that the dynamic inside the She-Rah Chateau, that massive clutter-filled mansion on the hill, is suffocating. With no other wives to distract him, Kody's intensity is focused entirely on Robyn. She is now the sole recipient of his chaotic energy. Every time he reads a negative comment online, every time he looks at his dwindling bank account, every time he realizes he's the villain of his own show, he turns turns to her. She wanted to be the legal wife, the favorite wife, the only wife. Now she is the target wife. She is trapped in a monogamous marriage with a man who has publicly admitted he doesn't know how to love a woman without controlling her. And here is the ironic hook that hits the hardest. Kody Brown has become the absolute greatest argument against the lifestyle he spent his entire life championing. He set out to prove that polygamy was a superior way to live, that it created better men and happier families. Instead, he proved the exact opposite. He showed the world that without empathy, without equality, and without genuine love, polygamy is just a system of abuse. He didn't normalize plural marriage. He exposed its darkest flaws. He is the ultimate cautionary tale. He is the captain who sank his own ship just to prove he could steer it. There is a fascinating element of thematic hypocrisy here that we can't ignore. Kody demanded loyalty above all else. He defined loyalty as absolute obedience. But look at who was actually loyal. Meri stayed for years after he told her to leave. Christine raised his children while he was absent. Janelle managed the finances and kept the family afloat. They were loyal to the family. Kody was only loyal to his own desires. He betrayed the collective for the individual. The man who wrote the religious rules broke every single one of them just to be with his favorite wife, leaving a trail of 20 plus broken humans in his wake. We also need to address the financial cliff one last time, because this is where the story likely ends in reality. The insider whispers about Coyote Pass are getting louder. The property, which was supposed to be the family's legacy, is sitting there undeveloped, a barren monument to Kody's incompetence. There are rumors that they are struggling to pay off the loans on the land, and with the show's future uncertain, or at least the polygamy aspect of the show being dead, Kody is staring down the barrel of financial ruin. Imagine the humiliation. He banked his entire life, his finances, and his public identity on being the successful polygamous king. Now, he might have to sell off that land just to pay his bills. He might have to downsize. The empire he tried to build is crumbling because it was built on a foundation of sand. And reports say he is terrified of going back to a regular job. He's been a reality TV star for too long. He can't just walk into a sales job now. He's a caricature. He has made himself unemployable in the corporate world because his brand is toxic narcissist. This leads us to the concrete example of the knockout blow. Kody spent decades demanding his wives submit to the patriarchy. He wanted to be worshipped. But at the end of it all, he realized that he despises the very religious system he forced them to suffer through. He has admitted on camera that he questions the principle now. He questions if it was ever right. That is the ultimate betrayal. He forced Christine to stay in a miserable basement apartment. He forced Meri to live in isolation. He forced Janelle to choose between him and her dogs, all in the name of a religion he doesn't even believe in anymore. He tortured them for a lie. And let's look at the behavioral flaw that sealed his fate. It wasn't the polygamy that destroyed the family. It was favoritism. You cannot have a favorite in a system designed for equality. It's like trying to divide by zero. The equation breaks. Kody couldn't hide it. The audience saw it, the kids saw it, the wives saw it. And instead of fixing it, he blamed them for noticing. He gassed an entire family for 15 years, telling them, "I treat everyone equally," while he was practically living in Robyn's pocket. The point of no return has been crossed. There is no going back. Even if Kody apologized tomorrow, which he won't because his ego won't allow it, the damage is done. The children have grown up and moved on. The wives have found happiness elsewhere. Christine is glowing. Janelle is traveling. Meri is finding her voice. They are thriving because they left him. That is the greatest revenge. Their happiness is proof that he was the problem. He was the anchor dragging them down, not the captain leading them forward. As we wrap up this deep dive into the collapse of the Brown family, we have to ask, what happens next? The speculation is that the show will limp along for another season or two, focusing on the aftermath, but the magic is gone. The Sister Wives show is now just a show about a divorced man and his last remaining wife trying to justify their choices. It's a tragedy, not a documentary. Kody Brown wanted to be remembered as a patriarch. Instead, he will be remembered as a man who had it all: 4 wives, 18 children, a TV show, financial security, and threw it all away because he couldn't handle his own ego. He burned down the house to stay warm, and now he's standing in the ashes, wondering why it's so cold. The divine calling was a scam. The priesthood was a power trip, and the family was just a cast list for a man who wanted to be famous. But here is the final lingering thought that should keep you up at night. If Kody was willing to do this to the women he claimed to love, what is he capable of doing now that he has nothing left to lose? The insider theories suggest he is getting more desperate, more erratic, and more vindictive. We might not have seen the bottom yet. The ultimate fraud might have one last ugly chapter left to write. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark reality of Sister Wives and want to stay updated on the latest insider rumors, financial leaks, and reports coming out of Flagstaff, you need to smash that like button right now. We are tracking the story every single day, and trust me, you do not want to miss the next update. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment down below. Do you think Robyn is actually a victim in this, or did she get exactly what she deserved? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.